Censorship in media is a very common occurrence, as well as a pretty controversial topic. Usually what happens is that when something gets localized in another territory from overseas, many things that could be considered suggestive or explicit are replaced or removed entirely. Certain things are just more acceptable in other parts of the world, so naturally, that stuff would have to be toned down in other territories to keep a low age rating. Censorship like this has been prevalent in several different Mario games, so let's talk about them. Starting with Super Mario World. Yeah, we're going pretty far back to start this video. The Super Nintendo actually had several Mario games censored when localized here in the US. In the original game, Yoshi could eat dolphins, but that was removed in the international release because you can't eat dolphins, that's f***ed up. Oddly enough though, this was completely undone in the GBA release of the game with Super Mario Advance 2, those monsters. But the GBA release of the game also introduced another bit of censorship. After completing the first castle, Iggy is called demented, but that was seen as too offensive in some territories, so the word was changed to crazed in the international release. Weirdly enough though, in the European release, both the Spanish and French language options include demented instead of crazed. I guess they might have just forgotten to change it or something. Moving on to Super Mario Kart, this game initially had a few references to alcohol. In the original version, after winning as either Peach or Bowser, they would start downing a bottle of champagne, getting absolutely shit-faced. This was censored in the international release by having Peach toss the bottle up and down, and by having Bowser just pop the cork off. It's pretty obvious why this was removed. You gotta understand that even though this era of gaming had a lot more leniency with things like alcohol and kids media, seeing Peach or Bowser just chugging that shit is a little much. But then we move on to Super Mario RPG, which actually had a lot of things that were removed not only in the international release, but also the Wii Virtual Console release and the Switch remake. In the Japanese release of the game, after winning a battle as Bowser, he flexes his arm and slaps his bicep with his other hand. Now, in Japan, this is considered non-offensive, but in other territories, it's considered to be an offensive gesture, kind of an equivalent to flipping the bird or a f*** you. So it was replaced with Bowser just pumping his fists in the air instead. This also carried over to both the remake and the European Wii Virtual Console release, and that same Virtual Console version also featured some replaced text. In the original, Krako says "you're a persistent bugger," but in Europe, bugger is a swear word, so it was changed to "you're a persistent pest." Now we're in the Nintendo 64 era with Mario Party, and this one is infamous for some of the minigames it had that involved players rotating the joystick with the palms of their hands. This eventually led to a class action lawsuit against Nintendo, as these minigames resulted in injuries to the players' hands. The minigames were also removed in the Virtual Console release of the game, but not in the Nintendo Switch Online release. Instead, the game just gives you a warning before playing the minigame. Apart from that, there were also some words censored in the international release, like Luigi saying "oh my god" and Wario saying "such damn" in German. I just think the whole lawsuit thing is still crazy to this day, and it is fun seeing the start of Nintendo's history with lawsuits. In Mario Party 2, Professor Fungi is seen smoking a pipe in the Japanese release, so that had to be removed. The Western Lands closing sequence also had the gunshot sounds removed, and the guns were also slightly changed to look less realistic. But let's go ahead and move over to Mario Kart 64, which initially had a lot of sponsor signs parodying real brands. Like instead of Marlboro, there was Mario Burrow, instead of Goodyear, we had Koopa Air, etc, etc. All of these were replaced in the international version with just generic names, likely to prevent any trademark issues. Yet another lawsuit that could have been added to Nintendo's catalog. Such a shame. And of course, I have to mention Super Mario 64. This one's a classic. I would be shocked if you didn't know about this one. In the original release of the game, when Mario throws Bowser, he says but a lot of people thought it sounded like Mario was instead saying, "So long, gay Bowser." This line was removed in the 1997 reprint of the game in Japan, and was also not featured in both 64DS and 3D All-Stars. This one is just hilarious. I'm surprised they even removed it, to be honest. Alright, now we're getting to the good stuff with Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. This game abnormally featured a lot more references to things like violence and sexuality than we were normally used to out of a Mario game. There were a ton of things that were changed not only for the international release back when the game launched, but also later in the Switch remake. One scene in one of the buildings initially had a chalk outline surrounded by blood, which was later removed internationally altogether, and then later in Japan in the Switch release. The scene that shows Pika wearing bunny ears was changed to show Pika wearing cat ears instead. In the original Japanese release of the game, Vivian is a transgender woman. This was then removed in many localizations, including the English localization. But in the remake, the censorship was undone entirely for her character in all regions. There was also some censorship done in Europe of a hand gesture that Mario makes when talking to NPCs. I think we all know what this looks like. So in the European release and the Switch remake, P doesn't raise his arm. But yeah, this game has by far the most censorship out of any other game in this video. And even with the remake being out, I'm a bit shocked that more of it wasn't censored. The game still has a lot of things that I wouldn't think would normally fly by today's standards. But hey, I'm not complaining. It keeps that gritty atmosphere that makes the game so unique. I love it. But then we have Super Mario 64 DS. In South Korea, all of the Luigi gambling minigames were removed, due to gambling and casinos being outright illegal in the country. Well, that's no fun. Mario Party DS also had a bit of censorship in South Korea, due to the minigames Shuffleboard Showdown and Chips and Dips having casino theming. These minigames were just removed altogether. The Bowser's Pinball Machine board was also modified to remove simulated gambling elements, like the slot machine being replaced by a UFO game and the Wheel of Wonder being replaced by a whack-a-mole. All of this is actually so fascinating to me. I haven't seen anything like this being censored before, although it does kind of suck that people playing in South Korea had to miss out on some of the minigames. Keeping the Mario Party theme going, Mario Party 8's release in Europe was actually recalled due to Kamek saying a slur used to mock people with disabilities. The game was then delayed by a few more months, and when it was eventually re-released, the word was replaced altogether, and the word was also removed in future international reprints of the game. Jesus, man. Alright, we've made it to the Switch era of games, and there were a few Mario games released for this console that have some interesting censorship. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is up first, and in the initial release of the game, England Girl did the same gesture that Bowser got censored for using in Super Mario RPG. This gesture was completely removed in the 1.1 patch. Super Mario Maker 2 was removed from Chinese e-commerce websites due to some of the user-made levels being anti-political. And then with Super Mario Odyssey, the box art originally had a screenshot of Mario in the sombrero and poncho that you can get in the Sand Kingdom. Nintendo faced a lot of backlash for this online, getting accused of racism and cultural appropriation. So for the final release, the screenshot was replaced with Mario swimming in Lake Kingdom instead. The Chinese version of the game also had a couple more things censored. To comply with China's video game regulations, Mario's pirate outfit is missing an eye patch in the Chinese release, and the outfit was also renamed to the Noble outfit. English names on the world maps were also removed, including the coordinate numbers and letters. So Mario Odyssey definitely has the most censorship and regional differences among the rest of the Mario Switch games, but it's still not that much in comparison to a lot of the Mario games released before Odyssey, and I think the reason is obvious. Nowadays, video games primarily targeted towards younger audiences are a lot more strict with what content can be featured in the game, and it's clear that even back in the SNES days, a lot of stuff was still removed to keep a low age rating. It just kind of shows how different things are seen as okay in some places, but not okay in others. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about censorship in Mario games in the comments down below. Do you think any of this stuff should have been changed or not? I would love to hear your thoughts. But that's all for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.